Hello duelists, this is Tom Box here, welcome to MST.TV, and before I get into this video, huge shout out to everyone I met in Seattle, huge shout out to Team BC, huge shout out to Quinn from my locals for topping his, well I guess, getting his invite for his first ever regional. This is the first one he has ever attended, and he got invite through the very first one, so that's actually very impressive because I totally scrubbed out my very first one. And shout out to all my opponents and everyone I met, and I will bring a Sharpie next time. I'm sorry I made you guys all go on a scavenger hunt, but all said and done, let's go into this Banlist prediction. Now, for a Banlist to be considered a prediction, it must have logical reasoning behind it, or else people are going to call you a wish list. So just a, fun fact, I own every single meta deck available. And I played every single one from the most degenerate FTKs all the way to right now I'm playing True Draco because it was the most logical choice for me. Lowest skill ceiling of all the decks and not so complicated. Easily shut down a lot of combos. But that's my current deck. But that being said, I like to be fair and address the problems of the current format, and as well as that, I would also look at all the previous banlists of last year, of how they hit over the course of 1 year, and based on each banlist, I believe that each banlist actually hits a certain way. If certain decks are super problematic and other decks are getting overshadowed by them, then they will be addressed, kind of like spirals of the previous format. No matter what you throw at them, they seem to always have the edge. Then yeah, you have a problem. So in terms of this banlist, around this time last year, it was still about the Zodiac format, and Zodiacs did lose a couple cards around this time this year. I believe it was the Terratop engine that was gone because that was too free. I think that was just a couple of minor hits and that's it. I think for this banlist, it will be similar, but several of the FTK issues will be addressed. And you know what? Let's go into this banlist prediction. So, starting off with the only ban card on this list, it is going to be Lyrilisk Nightingale. Why? It's part of the Pendulum FTK. That's part of the reason, but it's part of 2 FTKs already. I think it's time to remove the card if it is actually becoming kind of a centerpiece for some of these FTKs. It's like when Firewall just gave you too much spam, they limited Firewall even though it's a main character card. This is not a main character card. I think it can go. That's why. Its FTK is degenerate. Even if it doesn't get like completely destroyed, hopefully it gets power creeped out so that no one plays it anymore, or perhaps the hand traps of the format will readjust to adapting to dealing with this deck. But if it doesn't, well, let's say goodbye to this card because we don't like sitting there watching our opponent play solitaire against you. Okay, so let's go into the limited stuff. Limited stuff, we have Astrograph Sorcerer, Drone Lockbird, Trickstar Reincarnation, Masterpiece, Dragonic Diagram, Grand Soil, and Master Diamond from Gem Knights. Now you might see a little black box around the Drone Lockbird, and you probably see the black box around the Masterpiece and Diagram. I'll explain that in a bit, but let's talk about Astrograph Sorcerer. Astrograph Sorcerer is actually pretty ridiculous in the Pendulum Magician deck, and for all pendulums, actually every pendulum deck really, because it just gives you free pluses. It lets you get a 25 body. It gives you so much in combo with Electromite. You know that that's just way too many pluses, way too much board development for just one card. And even if you actually put this card down to 1, it's still very successful. But I want to minimize the chances of you opening with 12 ways of special summoning monsters onto the field. So let's talk about the Pendulum Magician deck. We have the Dark Worms. We have 3 Dark Worms that you can just throw into the grave, get a free body. We have the Master Cerberus that can also get a Jackal, which is also fetches you a free body and a level 6 along the way. We have 3 Chronograph and 3 Astrograph. Astrograph kind of serves as the pivotal combo piece, but even with just 1 Astrograph, you can still go into the Absolute Dragon, the Odd-Eyes Absolute Dragon, and then go into the Vortex. That's still available to you because of the fact that, well, you can use the other level 7 monster, which is King Gate 0, to actually do your work, and that's actually coming from Darkworm. I even considered Darkworm to be on this list, but let's be honest here. Darkworm is a pretty good engine for the new structure deck that's going to be coming out, so that's why that's not on here. So business-wise, it wouldn't be smart to hit that just yet. Now, in terms of Drone Lockbird versus Trickstar Reincarnation, if you hit Drone Lockbird, I get you guys saying, oh my god, people are just going to go off. and get all the free searches they want, especially with a true Draco deck. Yeah, it makes sense. But then if you consider the combo of Drone Lockbird plus the Trickstar Reincarnation, now you have a problem because your opponent has to play around you all the time. And if they don't, you rip their hand apart. You just get rid of every single card possible, and it's almost impossible to play. The only way that we can play right now is because we have Called by the Grave, but if you don't have that card, you just don't have access to negating that Drone Lockbird. It just doesn't happen. And from that, I don't think that both cards should go, but one of them could be placed at 1 and the other can remain at 3. But hitting a hand trap like this, I'm not too sure. It is a complete lockout when you get the full combo. And it does suck that you don't get a full turn to play at all. But, you know, it's one or the other because they kind of do the same thing. If your opponent is playing True Draco and they search like a really powerful card, you can Reincarnation and banish it. Rather than banish it and then get rid of their entire hand, I think that's a bit much. Now, on the other hand, there's also Masterpiece or Draconic Diagram. One of them can go to 1. Now, the argument is that the True Draco deck isn't even about Masterpiece anymore. In that case, you want to hit the Diagram instead. Because, here's the thing. Most people are playing Maiden Beatdown. They control your opponent with just Maiden and a bunch of back row, and if you do anything, then they'll search the Masterpiece. Therefore, Masterpiece at 1 doesn't affect too much. However, pay attention to how they build the deck. They run Pot of Desires in there. If they hit off that Masterpiece, they don't exactly have a lot of monsters to work with, and putting Masterpiece at 1 actually puts their deck at a much higher risk when it comes to Pot of Desires. Because any deck that runs Pot of Desires usually likes to run multiple copies of stuff, and they don't like running single copies of anything, because if that single copy of anything gets banished, the whole like end line of any play is basically dead, which is why hitting Masterpiece at 1 still hurts the deck a lot, because it hurts the consistency of whether or not the deck is successful or still live at the end. And you guys kind of get the idea from that. If you hit Draconic Diagram, it does hurt because the deck becomes less consistent. However, that being said, they might just shove in more Masterpieces in there to actually replace the Draconic Diagram, or perhaps even play a Waterfall of Dragon Souls, just in case they can get that extra play. But that's just my reasoning behind it. I don't think the deck should die, which is why it's hit 1 or the other. I would not say hit both to 1. But knowing OCG, they already kind of hit both. It's quite possible that both could get hit in TCG as well. Now, the other card being released here to 1 is Grand Sword, due to the fact that we know that there's a reprint coming out for it. So there's going to be an errata on it, reprint, and then it's also for Element Saber boosting for the next Flames of Destruction product. And then we have one more card to actually get hit, which is Master Diamond. This is the Gem Knight FTK. Again, addressing FTK, we don't want to ban off the entire deck. Putting Diamond to 1 prevents you from actually taking the full burn and killing you in 1 turn. How does that work? Well, the Lapis Lazuli can only be special summoned once per turn, and then Diamond, with only 1 Diamond, you can't exactly go any further than that. I think there is a way for them to still FTK you, which is they need to somehow fuse off this Diamond and then refuse it back out, and that's actually cost a lot more material. It'll be a bit more intricate. I could be wrong. Maybe this isn't the right hit. Maybe this is enough. Maybe Diamond belongs up there too, but I don't want to kill off Gem Knights, like people that are just playing Gem Knights in general. But FTK wise, let's kind of get rid of that. Now for semi-limits, we have just a consistency style hit. We have Card Demise, Terraforming, Scapegoat, and for 3 cards coming back up to 2, we have Dark Arm Dragon, we have Book of Moon, and we also have Compulsory Evacuation Device. Now let's address the 3 things going down to 2, which is mainly a consistency hit. Some of these cards are quite powerful, and a lot of these are just very versatile cards that I think needs to be addressed. Whenever your opponent resolves a Card of Demise, for instance, you know you're falling behind. Whether you're playing against a Paleo deck, whether you're playing a True Draco deck, you know that if that card resolves, you have a problem, which is why you run so many hand traps to just not let that happen, because an instant +2 is not very fun, and they can easily 1-for-1 trade with your cards, and you will suffer so much for it. For that reason, Card Demise should go to 2, because it is also a key piece in some of these decks that are really relying on it. And for that reason, rather than giving you a total of 9 card draws through 3 copies, you can get total 6 card draws with 2 copies. That's the only reasoning behind it, because I don't think any deck should be killed, which is why it's kind of a weird spot, semi-limiting anything. It feels like it's a little testing period. Next up, we have Terraforming. There's really 3 powerful field spells that I really want to address. Most of these are just 1-card combos, except for Draconic Diagram, because Draconic Diagram is just really, really good. But 1-card combo like Magical Meltdown, you get into the Alistair, get into the Alistair to the Invocation, get into Mechaba. 1-card combo, you basically break a board, summon Mechaba, and then you sit on it. A bit too powerful, I would say, but then there's a lot of field spell that kind of leads in that direction. Trickstar as well, go into that light stage. I think Terraforming is very versatile in that regard, where getting that field spell can get you there, and basically you're running a 39, like a 37 card deck when Terraforming is in there. It's like an upstart almost, except a bit more powerful because it's a little bit more targeted towards getting your combo piece. Now, as for Scapegoat, I think Scapegoat can tone it down a little bit just because 1-card Borreload is pretty nasty. After seeing what happened at this regionals, I can tell you that Scapegoat Borreload has stolen so many games. It almost feels like it's a 3K monster on its own, and it can block hits. Maybe not so well against the dinosaur deck, but hey, it is just ridiculous of how good this card is when it comes to the late game, the low resource grind. Dealing with a Borreload isn't easy at all because you can't target it, and for that reason I think this is something that needs to be addressed. Maybe tone it down a little, make it at 2. Don't take away the tech entirely, just make it less consistent. Now, as for 3 cards coming back, Book of Moon. Book of Moon does not interact with link monsters, doesn't interact with tokens, and we're actually seeing a lot more token interaction in the near future. Even Brandish, there's that token card, and Book of Moon doesn't address the Scapegoat issue, that's for sure. But then it does offer you something else. What if your opponent special summons a monster that's not linked into the extra monster zone? This gives you the opportunity to set it face down and end the combo, which is a very smart play, and I believe that play should exist in our game right now. Think about Master Cerberus. When your opponent goes into Jackal, revives the Master Cerberus right onto the extra monster zone and uses Book of Moon that. Think about how devastating that play actually is. Your opponent needs some way to clear it off, or else they're never going into that Electromite. That's what I kind of mean. And the next card is Compulsory Evacuation Device. Unlike the Bottomless and Torrential, that stuff that came back, Compulse is a bit different because Compulse can be activated during any time. It is an amazing card, whether you're going first or second, just because you can activate it whenever, and if you remove the appropriate monster, perhaps your opponent just put out a really big link monster that opens up a bunch of extra monster zones, and then you just bounce it away. That could actually save your butt a lot more than it would screw you over, and perhaps you can bounce back one of those cards that you can add back to your hand and basically recycle certain effects. I think that's actually something that perhaps we can see diversify in terms of text of different plays that we can expect players to do. And finally, Dark Arm Dragon. Dark Arm Dragon is a kind of an interesting one to actually put out there. Aside from like the Darkness deck that might utilize the Dark Arm Dragon, this is more for like an Element Saber boost, because in terms of OCG, Element Sabers aren't exactly doing too well, and that's one of the more popular archetypes coming out in Flames of Destruction, aside from Troymare. But Flames of Destruction has Element Sabers, and Element Sabers can utilize Dark Arm Dragon very well by manipulating the graveyard to 3 darks. I think this might be a way that the Element Saber deck might shift differently from how OCG played. Perhaps it would be a dark Element Saber deck, I don't know. That's just a kind of a throw in there for product boosting. Especially when we just got a reprint of Dark Arm Dragon in the Kaiba collection, so there could be a chance. And for monsters going back up to 3, these are monsters that don't belong on the ban list. We have Neospatian Grand Mole, because you do really nothing except for bouncing monsters at the cost of a normal summon. I don't know, what do you think about that? It's quite fair if you ask me. Sure, you can Pendulum summon him out and answer a problem. He's actually a very good card. Perhaps Pendulum players might play him like a little subpar Kirin, because Kirin doesn't get to come back. Maybe we can have Grand Mole, although we already have Grand Mole. People aren't playing him. Yeah, you just come back. Next up, we have Atlantean Dragoons. This one's kind of an interesting one. Not everyone's gonna agree because, oh my god, Dragoon's like the most busted card in Mermail. True, it is. It is like the most search card, most dump card, most versatile card in that entire deck. It is the consistency card. You're giving someone back a consistency card? True. Mermail's not exactly doing anything. Sure, there's always 1 or 2 guys that are doing very well with the deck. But as a promotional feature, there is a Mermail Link monster that already exists in OCG. It is, if this card gets to be back at 3, it is more likely to be an incentive for people to actually purchase that product. It's just an incentive push. Next up we have Tribe-Infecting Virus. This one is a virus. I don't know why I'm starting to sing, but this card is like a situational tech. There's just so much different type, like there's just so many different types right now that people are playing that this card isn't exactly effective. It's a conditional tech at best right now, and that's my opinion. But what do you guys think? That's all I got for this list. If you guys enjoyed this video and know about the giveaway that's happening at the end of this week, go check it out. Get a free mat. It's a very beautiful mat. Trust me, you would want one. A lot of people want one. You can check it out in the links down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with a thumbs up. Here it is. Thumbs up. And if you want to see more stuff from MST.TV, definitely hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate you guys. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job. And you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.